This is the split Maze Burr, designed by Derek Bosch and beautifully crafted by Eric Fuller. This is the second edition, of which 61 copies were made, and is composed of a purple heart frame, 12 white ash panels, and 12 acrylic panels. This puzzle is a more complicated adaptation of Kagen Sound's Maze Burr, which was the winner of both the Grand Prize and the People's Choice at the Nob Yoshigahara Puzzle Design Competition in 2006. What makes this puzzle especially clever is that the plates can be removed and reconfigured to create different mazes. Included with the puzzle was a PDF containing 50 interesting maze configurations, ranging in minimum moves from a casual 31 to a rather vexing 283. This puzzle is definitely one of my favorites, as it has a very high replay value, which is something that not many puzzles have. Let's go ahead and take a look at how the puzzle actually works, and you can see me solve the easiest configuration of 31 moves. So I've assembled the puzzle into the 31 move configuration, which is the lowest number of moves possible to solve this puzzle, and it's the lowest move configuration. So it's pretty straightforward. Essentially the way this works is we're trying to remove this piece, and I'm going to call this the key piece just because it's the most important piece, and it differs from all the others in that this little track that it goes along with the screw here is the only one that actually is able to leave. So once we get this screw all the way along this, then we can actually just pull this piece out. And if you look at all the other ones, they aren't able to do that. So none of the other pieces are able to be removed except for by using a hex wrench and actually removing the screw. So the other thing to notice is that none of the pieces, the acrylic pieces, can move, and neither can the wood pieces. The wood pieces are blocked by the acrylic pieces here. So this acrylic piece would have to move down for this wood piece to move over, which is possible because we have that track going horizontally there. But this acrylic piece can't move forwards or backwards because there's no track. And that's the case for every single piece, again, except for the key piece. So the first move of every configuration of this puzzle is to move the key piece actually in the backwards direction, because remember, we're trying to trace this and get the key piece out. That's how you complete the puzzle. So the first move is actually to go backwards there, and what that does is it opens up this wood piece to be moved. So I'm going to flip it over and show you. So we just pulled this down and it can now move that direction. And essentially what we're going to do at this point is just follow all the possible moves. There's really not a whole lot of variance, but I will show you why this is considered to be a maze puzzle. So the next move that we've opened up is, once we've moved that down, we can actually move this over now. And something that's unique about this piece is once we've moved it over, we can actually move it back down again. And I'll show you why that's kind of an important feature of this specific piece later on in the puzzle. So once we move this over, then we can actually just keep following it. Now we can move this one over. Now this acrylic piece can come down, which opens up this wood piece, and so on. So we're just going to keep following this until we get to a piece like this one. So this one's special too, because once we get here, we just moved it down here, we can now move either this direction or we can move this direction. So I call these decision pieces, and if you're kind of visualizing the maze here, we've really just been going in a straight line up until this point. And now we need to go left or right. So if we go to the left, we can see that that's most likely not the direction to go, because that actually doesn't allow us any new moves. This piece can't move over. If the screw was in the middle track here, then we would be able to move the wood piece over, down, and we'd be able to get up there. But because we can't do that, we know that that's a dead end and we need to go the other direction. So that opens that one, pulling this down. Now this one's open. Alright, so we've reached another decision point. We can either go up or down. And in this case, we can see that both of these allow us to move another piece. So both these are viable options. This is a split in the maze where we can choose either direction. Now I've solved this configuration a couple of times already, and it is the easiest configuration, so I already know that this is the correct move, and I'm going to show you guys why. That moved the piece to the left of the key piece down. And unless this is flipped, which it can be in some configurations, when the key piece has the long slot on the right-hand side, looking down at it, the first thing that you need to do when you're trying to solve it is to drop this piece. And the reason is that once we've dropped that piece, we can move this over, move it up, and then move it back. And so you see now that I'm one step closer to pulling it out of the slot here. And the next move after you've gotten to this point is to drop this piece so that we can continue to slide it over and pull it out. Now, at the beginning, if you recall, we dropped it back into this little slot. Now, it might not have had that, and there are a couple of designs, maze designs on the acrylic pieces that don't have this extra slot. And the reason that was important is that we not only opened up this piece to move, but then we were able to put it back and leave this top piece open. If we hadn't done that, once we drop this piece, we wouldn't be able to move this up. So in some configurations, this wood piece will be up still, and even after you drop this one, you then have to go backwards all the way through the maze to the beginning to drop this, so that then you can do this. But because this is the easiest configuration, part of the way that it is so few moves is that you are able to leave that piece dropped. So now that we've accomplished the first step in the puzzle, the next thing we need to do is drop this piece so that we can move it over and pull it out. So the only real direction to go now is this way, because if we stayed here and moved back, we would essentially just be going backwards in the maze, and we already know that there are no other directions to take. So we're going to continue progressing in the maze until we get to this. So with that last move, we dropped the piece to the right of the key piece, and now we can move it over, and the puzzle is solved. So that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I don't think most people, even if they're not too familiar with the concept after they kind of played around with it, I think this one's fairly straightforward to solve. One way you could go wrong is at that decision point if you started going backwards. If you didn't, after you dropped this piece down, or you originally went that way, you might end up dropping this piece first but not be in position to actually pull it out. So you can get a little mixed up still if you haven't really planned ahead, but it doesn't take too long to kind of realize what's going on and go back and get it. So that is the easiest configuration. That I'm actually going to go back through the puzzle here real quick. I'm going to do it without talking, just so you can hear the pieces move. I actually really enjoy the feel of this puzzle, the tactile movement, but the sound of it kind of moving is pretty nice, especially once you get a little faster, which I'm a little out of practice, so it might not actually be that quick still. So let me see, I think I lost my place. Okay, so we had just been here. And we're back. I hope I was actually holding at the center there. Sorry if we got a little off to the side. So that's the split Maze Burr in the easiest configuration. If you guys are interested in seeing one of the harder configurations where you actually have to hit a certain point, maybe set a piece like this, and then actually traverse back to a different point, let me know in the comments. It's really quite neat, and what I would do for that too is actually draw out a map, because essentially what you're doing is you're getting to a decision point, you navigate through the maze to essentially what is a dead end, and you maybe just set a piece like this, and the only way to move after that is to basically go backwards through the maze. But what's happened is you've created a new decision point somewhere earlier in the maze, and then you need to start going that way. When you get into some of the higher configurations, I've actually only done one a little over 100 moves, I think, you have to essentially set pieces, go backwards, go back to the beginning, and it's pretty easy to get lost in the maze. It's hard to kind of visualize it in your head once it starts to get complicated. The 381 move, I think if I remember correctly, that's the hardest one. I haven't tried that. I'm a little intimidated, to be honest. We'll see if I get there, or when I do, how solvable it actually is. I do intend on solving all the configurations, and I think that's what really makes this puzzle a good value, is that you can do so much puzzling. There's no real aha moment like in a lot of other puzzles, but you can set all those configurations and play with it a bunch of times. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was a split Maze Burr, and I'll see you next time.